Hello, everybody, and welcome to coverage of the Spring Fling semifinals. It has been a little bit. A lot of things have been going on with myself as well as the players, but we are resuming play with our top eight. We are in our first semifinals. We have Stasis, piloted by Gabe Farkas, and then Natural Order Rock by Brandon Econ. I'm Michael Hoyp. I'm joined by Tom Metelsky. How's it going, Tom?
It's going good, Mike. Thanks for having me here. Looking forward to this matchup. And I think I told you I have a new shtick I do
Well,
here.
I'll interrupt you. You don't have to lie. You said I'm looking forward to this matchup. That's not what you were just the tune you were singing just a couple minutes ago. So
All right, full transparency. Yeah, I was just saying how once I realized it was a Stasis matchup, I was so I won't fib anymore. Yeah, I'm not looking forward to it.
that's well, we'll find things to entertain you. That's what we'll do. And I was telling Tom that I actually like the Stasis match. I think it's kind of interesting. So we'll see how everyone else will enjoy it too.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. But like I said, I have a random fact of the day. This is more interesting than watching Stasis. But no, but Gabe's fast with it, so I'm looking forward to this, and he's really good with the deck. But yeah, random fact of the day: Saturn has 146 moons.
Okay, how many moons does Stasis have? Because the card art has a crescent moon there. So
So one.
so one. Well, maybe it's four if you got four copies of Stasis. I don't know. Are there any other moon cards in the deck? We'll see. Maybe that's something to look out for in the card
Yeah,
factor.
yeah, yeah. If you spot some extra moons, you get I don't know. We'll send you something. I'll send you a signed basic land.
All right, let's jump over to the decks and see what our players have in store for us. So first up, I have the Stasis list from Gabe Farkas, and in an interesting pattern, I'm trying to digest the deck. I mean, I'm not seeing anything that's like too off the wall here. Some of the things that I guess there's a couple copies of Stifle in the main deck. That's not something that you normally see. There's a copy of Meditate, which is a little bit spicy. Arcane Denial is not always a card that you see in Stasis. Some players play it. Some players just play a regular counterspell. The number of thwarts, he has 4, which is a lot more than I think I normally see. So those are, I guess, the different card choices. If you're not familiar with the Stasis deck, you're this permission base, but there's actually times where you can be a little bit more tempo based. If you have the trifecta of Black Vise, Stasis, and then Forsaken City, it is a very good lock against your opponent, and you can find yourself quickly pressuring your opponent to take action. Otherwise, they're going to die with a bunch of cards in their hand. That's pretty much all I had to say. There's a lot of permission in this deck, and then some bounce spells with Chain of Vapor and Boomerang, which could either help cards that have resolved, but also is something that you target your own Stasis at the end of your opponent's turn. Tom, I know this isn't your favorite deck, but is there anything you want to say about Stasis?
No, you covered that really well. I would just say that I enjoy watching it more than actually playing against it.
Okay.
So I don't like being involved much.
I would say
But
I would say if I before people knock it, I would say play. I mean, if you haven't played against it, play against it, and then if you don't enjoy that, maybe try it one time, and then you'll see it from their perspective. And there are a lot of times where like you're on razor thin margins with the Stasis deck, and it's really interesting to navigate those. And kind of if you see it from the Stasis perspective, then you're going to be able to play better against Stasis. And some of the things are easy, and some of the things are just kind of like you have to like see it happen from a Stasis perspective, and then you're kind of like, oh, there's a lot more play against Stasis than maybe what meets the eye. But in Brandon Econ's hands, he has the Natural Order Rock, which also has like a white splash. So I guess I didn't even kind of highlight that. So there are copies of Vindicate, which might be something, though, is a little clunky against the Stasis. Sorcery speed is kind of risky, but the natural order of the deck is something that can pump out a Verdant Force or a Phantom Nishoba. And Verdant Force is kind of exciting, especially against Stasis, because it puts a Sapperling into play every upkeep. And if that's not bounced, then even under a Stasis, that's creating threats and something that the Stasis deck has to deal with. So that's kind of interesting, though I will say resolving a natural order against the Stasis deck is a little bit tricky. But there are 4 copies of Cabal Therapy and 2 copies of Duress. So you do have a little bit of agency of when you want to pick your spot. So Tom, I see a couple of caller herds in this list. That must meet your approval, right?
yes, otherwise, absolutely not. No, but I really like this deck. Natural Order it's interesting. I feel like it doesn't still have like this solidified home, right? You've seen it in and out of elves. You've seen like these no rock lists, whatever. This one looks good. I just still don't know where its place is. Like it seems like it's a meta call. But I really like it. He's got some sweet stuff in the sideboard. I'm seeing a Spike Weaver. Like that's pretty sick. That can like either buy you turns or I don't know. I mean, I'm not looking at it too much in depth, but if there's like some lock with recurring nightmare, I think you probably could do some sort of lock where you just fog them out against certain decks like goblins. Like that actually is pretty sweet. There's got to be something there, and then oh, speaking of just meta calls, I'm not a fan of Stasis, but I do think the way the meta is looking right now, it seems like Stasis. This is a really good time for Stasis. So it seems, I know this is a couple months back from the spring fling, but I'm talking like a 3-month span here. I think this is a good time. This is probably why Gabe had so much success. It's good against this meta. And speaking of that, I'm going to probably release a tier list update.
Okay.
I try to do one quarterly, and I'm due. It's been 3 months already. Right. So Stasis might be rising to the top.
The rising star, or maybe the rising moon. So. All right, let's jump down to the match. I'll let the players know that they can get started, and we are going to kick things off. So we get to see all the turns of Stasis here. So Gabe is the higher seed, so he gets to play first, which he did choose. I will note we also are playing a best of 5, so even more Stasis action for everybody involved. Oh, Brandon, taking a bathroom break before we get started, so... Yeah, so a lot of what Stasis comes down to is finding the right spot of, one, if your opponent like taps out to play a threat, whether it's not as important and you let it resolve, or you able to counter it and then untap and play Stasis. And especially if you have Black Vise and be able, like, because that's usually the way that the Black Vise, or the Black Vise is kind of like the kill condition. And so when you have... without the Black Vise, then you're just kind of biding time, and a lot of times opponents can just wait it out, because obviously the Stasis player is using resources every turn to keep the Stasis in play. I just want to check. I'm getting some feedback. I don't know. I wasn't getting it before. Chat, are you guys hearing that like static background noise? Yeah. Let me just see if... Yeah, it's from you, Tom. I don't know what changed because I didn't hear it earlier. Did anything change with your microphone?
Let me see. Is that better?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So, thank you. All right, and it looks like Brandon is back, and we're kicking things off with early Black Vise. So, I mean, I know I was just talking about this, but sometimes certain decks are not as good as like playing under a Black Vise, especially when it comes out on turn 1, because you just go land, go, land, go. Brandon at least has a turn 1 Duress, though he did cast it off of Llanowar Wastes. But he also has like Birds of Paradise as another way that can get cards out of his hand, and then also like especially the birds, it helps him cast other spells a little bit quicker. So kind of easing the pain by at least casting a spell on turn 1. We see Gabe is revealing Island, 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 Foil Boomerang. So beyond the Black Vise, it's just kind of a like, let's see where this goes hand, I guess.
Yeah, interesting keep. But I guess Black Vise can...
Yeah, like it being on the play, like it definitely just can put Brandon under a lot of pressure, and if he finally like finds an answer to it with like Vindicate or whatever, or Pernicious Deed, then Gabe might be a little bit further, and like, okay, then next time Black Vise comes down, he only has to deal 12 points of damage as compared to the full 20, which sometimes it does add up. Like there are definitely like the Stasis deck, when it's in the lock, it kind of turns the corner in a sense, but you have like when you're playing against it, you kind of say like, how much time do I have? And your life total is that resource, is that time. So Brandon again following up with discard, this time in Cabal Therapy, and very conveniently he has seen Gabe's hand, so he knows most of it. Gabe is going to Boomerang a land. So I'm guessing. Well, I guess the remaining cards that he had, the other card is a land, but even if it wasn't, I guess it's tough for Brandon to hit that card in that spot. So
it's not bad. I feel like it's just like a nice tempo play. I mean, he's gonna name Boomerang anyway, right? And then
yeah. Well, I mean, we were just talking about like the Black Vise and like the tempo thing, and Brandon's getting cards out of his hand. But then, yeah, if you're boomeranging and like putting a card back in your opponent's hand and then also setting them back a mana, more important the latter half. But yeah, that definitely plays into the Black Vise plan. All right, so Gabe will hit his third land drop as Brandon is with his lone forest, and Gabe just has the one unknown card. So most of it, a lot of his cards are reactive. I mean, there's the other than card draw, it's counter spells, and then it's basically Black Vise and Stasis. That's pretty much the entire deck. So. All right. Brandon hits a Wall of Roots. That is another accelerant that just it kind of plays into what he wants to do in terms of getting a card out of his hand, and it's another way to accelerate his mana. So an ideal card in this spot that does resolve.
I will say it's Wall of Roots is a cool card that like still sees like modern play.
Yeah, and it never was like a card that was like you're like, oh, this card is just unfair. Like, I mean, I don't know. Maybe there was a point where I think like there was like an in between turn combo or something you could with Magma Mine or whatever. Mm-hmm. Obviously, that's not right. But like beyond that, like it was a card that like it was just always the right power level kind of thing. And for it to still have that be powerful enough in a modern day Magic, I think is really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, Deed. That's a good one. And if he has a counter spell, that's one you need to counter.
Yeah, preemptively answers Stasis, and then also it could be deployed to get rid of Black Vise. If Brandon just said, like, I just don't want the pressure of the Black Vise here, I could get rid of it. But it looks like we have...
What is that card?
I think that was another Boomerang. But
no, I think it's a Gush.
Oh, it's a white bordered Gush. All right.
Yeah, what is that? What are you doing?
I would say it looked like a similar art to the Boomerang that was right under it, but yeah, card wasn't done. So Gush, but then Arcane Denial. Okay.
Because at this point, it seems like Brandon's at 8, right? So
yeah,
Gabe has to do everything he can for this Black Vise to kind of go the distance.
I mean, part of the reason why people have Arcane Denial in the Stasis deck is because of a card like Black Vise, that when you're under it, like your opponent doesn't always want to draw cards. I didn't pay attention to see if Brandon drew the extra cards during the upkeep. He's got 4 in hand, so.
Okay, maybe he decided because you can choose up to 2, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Just this weekend, I played against Stasis, and I think there was one point where I chose to draw 0 cards from it. So. Right. Okay, so it looked like okay. So it was just a little bit delayed before we got to that point because I saw Brandon draw a card, and then I'm like, wait, is Stasis in play? Because he didn't.
Yeah, I just looked too. Why did you not know? What's going on? He drew one.
Okay. And a lot of times, like when you want to make that decision of if you want to draw extra cards, it's like, well, 1, are you anticipating Stasis? That would obviously change the dynamic. But 2, are you like going to be able to play a card next turn? Because if you're always like drawing a card and just playing one card, then you're just like taking that damage. And if something goes wrong, like a Boomerang or a Chain of Vapor or whatever, then that could add up into 2 each turn. So it's you got to kind of pick your spot of when you want to draw only 1 or as compared to 2. And so we do see a bounce spell here in the form of Chain of Vapor.
Chain the wall to a Stasis. Yeah, Stasis here is that is. the best case scenario for Gabe and the worst case scenario for Brandon. Because I was just going to say that Wall of Roots is pretty good against Stasis.
Yeah.
Not that it's going to take over, but this is like exactly the window Gabe needed. That was a great Gush.
Well, I mean, so like it's obviously it's really good because you add mana without tapping it, and while maybe not in the unsideboard games, but when there's copies of like Naturalize, that extra mana, just like reliably having it, just really makes it easier to develop a game plan around like whether it's just casting Naturalize, casting Naturalize and playing around Daze, or fitting in a Duress and then a Naturalize, like all those like lines, like having an extra mana like makes those plans way easier against the Stasis deck. So it looks like in the meantime, Brandon did not have a favorable position. He saw the writing on the wall. It was just going to be a couple more turns before the Black Vise was too much damage, and Gabe takes the first game. See, that was pretty painless, right?
Yeah, those are the games I don't mind. Yeah. That one's fine. I'll tell you when I'm annoyed.
Okay.
It's subjective, right? Because like you might say this is great and entertaining. I could say it's annoying.
Yeah. Well, so like when I play against it, it's like when it does resolve, then you kind of say like, well, first of all, you should be prepared like when the Stasis comes out anyways. Like unless you're just like I can't play around Stasis kind of thing, you should always be conscious of like what does this game look like if my opponent untaps and then is casting Stasis or whatever. And you should kind of be developing your game plan of saying like, how can I react to it the best way possible. Obviously, there's certain points like if you don't get to that mid to late game, you don't have that luxury of developing that plan. I would say that last game we did not get to that stage at all. Right. But you can kind of say like, okay, maybe I'm not going to cast this really aggressive threat. And then like the other thing is like a card like Treetop Village is really hard for the Stasis deck to deal with. So most decks only have one Boomerang. Gabe has two, but then Chain of Vapor cannot target lands. And so and you can't counterspell the land drop. So if you just have a Treetop Village, a lot of times you can just like, all right, if you have like 5 lands, you're just like, all right, I'm just going to attack for 3 every turn, or attack for 3 every turn. Mm-hmm. And like if you have open mana, the Stasis player is kind of like, I don't know if I like want to like commit the Stasis right here because they might have extra mana, might have more land drops, have discard spell and a naturalize or whatever. I don't have the position to protect it, and just chipping down for 3 at a time, it can be really problematic. I did that in one of my games on this weekend when I played against Stasis. Granted, my Stasis opponent had like got stuck on mana, so it was a little bit easier to make those decisions. But it is certain things like that like open up opportunities to take advantage of playing against Stasis.
No, that's true. That's a good, like, being very proactive against it, like, because you said they're all, like, their just whole deck is reactive, So, yeah, if they don't have Stasis, you can just, just keep attacking them. They can't really do anything. I'm surprised, though. I feel like if I were to play Stasis, I would want 4 Chain and 4 Boomerang. Just, like,
yeah, I mean, Chain is really, really good in the deck because you like typically the line is at the end of the opponent's turn, you're bouncing your Stasis, and then you have the option to sacrifice a land to target one of their permanents. So you can kind of get like 2 bounce spells out of 1, and then you get to untap and play your Stasis, and you get to untap some amount of mana, and your opponent never gets that untap step. The Boomerang like is pretty good, but I guess it's when you're not to the point where you have like a lock, it's I guess not worth the card. I mean, maybe it is. I mean, a lot of times, even if you just like turn 2, bounce a land, and just be like, it's gonna be a lot harder for you to develop things. In a lot of matchups, that's like pretty reasonable. So maybe that is kind of something to play around with. Is just upping the Boomerang counts.
No, I think so, because the deck kind of wants to restrict your mana, and like that is a really good turn 2 play. Like just setting them back on mana is huge.
Yeah, and certainly I could see a lot of lines too where you're like, end of turn I'm going to Boomerang your untapped land is not that good because they can just play it the next turn, but it might give you a spot where you're able to like either resolve a Stasis against like counter spells or make it easier to protect it.
Yeah. So Gabe definitely mulligan to 6. All right, here we go.
All right, we see that first turn Treetop Village. We'll see how many times that gets to attack.
I'll say if he heard you, Mike, he's gonna just.
Well, I'll say like it's
That's it.
it kind of takes the right kind of hand. Like you need both a lot of mana and then also like reactive cards, I would say, against
Yeah.
the Stasis deck for me to want to take that line. So it's not something that just like you will do every time you're like, oh, this is my plan against Stasis. It just kind of has to come together.
No, absolutely. You just can't, like, it's not the turn 3 play, I guess. Like you're just not gonna go right into it. Okay.
We see a Sylvan Library attempted for Brandon, and it looks like a Daze is coming from Gabe. Gabe will bounce his own land to cast the Daze.
I mean, sometimes you just have to do it, right? But I don't. Days on the draw is rough.
Well, and it's kind of interesting because Sylvan Library is a card that, like, it kind of plays into Gabe's plan a little bit. Like, I mean, obviously, like if Brandon is paying for life to put an extra card in his hand, then obviously that's painful against a Black Vise. But if you don't get to that point of like controlling that board, then Brandon can very easily say, yes, I will exchange my life for cards, because then Brandon can turn those into discard spells or cards like Vindicate or whatever, answers to Stasis or whatever, or just more threats. And so if you never get to that point where you're stabilized, then the card advantage is too much.
No, that's true. That was a tough spot. I still think, though, I don't know if I would have countered it, because now Gabe can really fall behind here. I think you just let it go. Well, if I was in that spot, I would probably just let it go.
Right. So Brandon's added a couple of Birds of Paradise on board, and yeah, Gabe now has a second land since he's a turn behind because of the Daze.
The good thing is, though, I guess, Gabe's deck's all counter spells, right? And stuff like that. Or he has a lot of counter spells.
Mm-hmm.
So he can, like, kind of gain some, like, tempo, right? If he's just going to, Brandon's going to cast a 4-drop, or, then he just counter land, go. Like, he can do this for a little bit if his hand isn't lands.
I guess I'll just note right now, Brandon is casting a Duress. I will say, so the last turn, Brandon did not attack with Treetop Village. So I think he's saying it's not worth risking. The thing is, though, is like Gabe is very unlikely to like untap and just play Stasis, because he would need to have Forsaken City, and then even then he's like spending a card every turn. So I think you got to recognize like that was, unless there's like a naturalize or something that Brandon's representing, I think I would have taken that time to attack with the Treetop Village. But Arcane Denial is gonna deny Brandon the ability to look at Gabe's hand, and
that's interesting too. I don't know.
Well, it could be a situation where like Gabe's hand is pretty weak, and he's just looking to draw an extra card.
That's what it would, like. That's what I would think in this situation, right? You just have to draw as many cards as you can.
Yeah, but if you're countering a card like Sylvan Library, then it seems really awkward to cast Arcane Denial like a couple turns later.
Yeah. And Brandon drew 2 there, which is definitely correct, right? In this situation, you want to see as many cards as possible.
Yeah, it looks like he has a decent amount of mana, and there's no Black Vise on the table, so I think I would take 2 as well.
Until now. Don't have a big of a deal it is, though, right? I mean, he's got I don't have the exact list right in front of me, but does he have a naturalized main?
I know he has 3 Vindicates. I don't know if he has any naturalized mains. Let me look at that list real quick. I'm not seeing any naturalized in the main.
No. Okay. I think he's still good, though, right? He only took 1, so he's got...
Yeah, a lot of it just like all depends on your hands. Like if you have cards like Duresses and whatnot, then, or even like I guess yeah, you could kind of tell from your hand of how impactful or how clunky your hand is, and if you kind of have a good idea of how good the Black Vise is. So yeah, Duress is a card that if you're trying to play under a Black Vise, then it certainly is very helpful. So we see a hand of Island, 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 Boomerang, Chain of Vapor. So again, like a super reactive hand, Chain of Vapor is taken, so there's just one bounce spell.
Yeah, Gabe knows Stasis well though, but looking at his hand, I wouldn't have. I probably just wouldn't have countered the first Duress. You just kind of let it happen. Um,
So I think the best card that Brandon could have right here would be a Blastoderm, given that it has Shroud, and he can give it.
Or mana, Mike.
There we have it. We have it right here. The nasty Blasty has come into play. So
And if I was running 4 Boomerang, it would do absolutely nothing. So this is interesting. I'm trying to think of the best case scenario for Gabe now.
well, if he sees a Stasis, it's kind of nice against the Blastoderm because you have lands in hand, and so
Right, yep.
Brandon would get one attack in, and then Gabe could spend his time, especially if it was this turn, that like Brandon would be mostly tapped out, and it'd be harder for him to develop, and Gabe would be able to upkeep the Stasis for a few turns. That certainly would take care of the Blastoderm. But then there's certainly spots like in this, like if you play a Stasis, and especially since Brandon knows Gabe's hand, it's very reasonable just to wait it out. Like you don't want to cast spells because then cards like Thwart or whatever turn on, and then it's easier for them to keep the Stasis in play. But it looks like Gabe is going to float 2 mana and then cast the Gush. So I think he is looking for that Stasis right here. He's saying this would be a really good opportunity for me to resolve a Stasis, and it's otherwise this Blastoderm is going to deal some hefty chunks. I mean, it's going to get in for 5 either way, but
Well, there you go.
we do find it. So
And for second stage, he's going to be able to buy a lot of time.
yeah, certainly because he's got one. Yeah, I mean he can keep this around. I mean, if things stay the same, it would be indefinitely because he would be drawing a card and he could always exile one. But
I mean, Mike, would you agree though? I mean, I keep going back to sometimes I get stuck on certain things. Would you have countered that first Duress given the hand he has? It's like you think now he probably really wants that Arcane Denial, right?
Sure, but I mean if the Duress would have taken the Arcane Denial anyways, right? The only difference is like it gets Gabe a little deeper in his deck, but obviously it gets Brandon even deeper. It gives him 2 cards, but I think it's very contextual. It depends on what is in the hand.
Yeah. Well, I get stuck on some things.
So
okay,
is Gabe bouncing his own Stasis? To me, that unless he's like trying to bounce the Blastoderm and doesn't realize that a Shroud, this does not seem a spot where I would want to Boomerang my own Stasis.
Yeah, there's nothing else to hit. I think.
There's a Cabal Therapy being cast.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying, like, what's worth the bounce? Just
Okay.
a land.
Yeah, I mean, given that, I mean, Brandon knows all the other cards, so it's like, maybe it's. I guess it's a choice of like whether it's better to use your mana and because you are under a Stasis. I would say it's not a free decision of whether it's better to cast that Boomerang or not.
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't think it's too deep either, but it's just like I don't know if it's the only point is just I don't think Brandon has more than 4 cards in hand. Yeah, so I don't know.
Yeah. But definitely, he was not trying to boomerang his own stasis in response to a Cabal Therapy. That would not be ideal.
Yeah.
Guess I was thrown off because the Cabal Therapy was already in the graveyard and it wasn't on the stack.
All right, so Gabe's turn, draws a card.
Did he exile that island this turn, or was that a previous turn? Wasn't the Forsaken City only in one turn? Did he have 2 land or 3 land at the end of turn? Or have we missed? Maybe we just passed turns. I guess it's not like it's not okay.
It's making things confusing when no one taps that, but
Yeah. Okay. I think that's what happened. That there are turns in between that okay. Yeah, I get the visual cue of people untapping when turns get played, but obviously when Stasis is in play, that's not something that I have the luxury of. All right, so the Blastoderm is gone, and Brandon's still under this Stasis lock. He hasn't started taking damage from the Black Vise yet, but Gabe has shown that with a number of islands, he can just play them every turn and upkeep the Stasis for a while.
Mm. I wonder what he named with the therapy.
Well, he
flashed it back in sec with Blastoderm.
Oh, the Blastoderm. Okay. Let's see if they said it in the chat. No, they didn't. They didn't notice or note it to us.
Okay, Vindicate on Stasis. Yeah, I wonder if like the therapy.
I guess you would just name the counter. Well, it could be like Thwart or Foil. I think you name Thwart because there's 4 of them, and Brandon knows that. So the Stasis is gone, and Gabe gets to untap first. But from Gabe's perspective, the Blastoderm's gone, and it only dealt 5. Then
I think Brandon's got 2 cards in hand.
Yeah, I would say he's done a good job of staying under that Black Vise. I think he's hit a number of land drops and then like being able to mix in Duress and Cabal Therapies and then the Vindicate.
Right,
Gabe's hands are very pixelated. Like when they come on screen, they're like...
Okay, no Stasis. Pass turn. Big opportunity here for Brandon to kind of turn the corner.
Yeah, and usually you don't like have the luxury of knowing that your Stasis opponent doesn't have any counter spells, but your natural orders certainly are much better than they normally are. I guess there's 1 card, but I might be willing to take that risk to cast a natural order, sack a bird, and try and go get a Verdant Force.
Mm-hmm. So it's 5 mana, the Hermit.
Okay.
All right, it's pretty good.
Nope, there is a counterspell, Arcane Denial.
Now, a deed. Okay.
The preemptive deed is really nice because Gabe has to commit like a card like Stasis. Well,
there's a Thwart.
Okay. So counterspell after. I mean, I guess he drew an extra card because of the Arcane Denial, but yeah, counterspell to counterspell. keeps the board clear for now. And like, so this is kind of like a spot where, I mean, the Black Vise is in play, but you could be trying to just chip in with the Treetop Village rather than play spells. But then obviously,
Mhm.
yeah, the problem is that if you're not playing lands, then you're drawing spells and your hand is getting bigger. But yeah, it definitely is costly for Gabe to return 3 islands when he doesn't have a stasis in play. Just him setting himself back on mana, it just makes it a little bit harder to do things. And then also, if he does put it, I guess then you put the stasis down, you still could basically upkeep it every turn because you have a land to play from your hand. But uh, yeah, it certainly sets him back.
All right. Brandon's over 3 cards. Now it feels like a nice opportunity to, I mean, based on his hand, like you said, but this is where Treetop can start getting in.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see.
Like we're tapping for mana. It is a natural order. Gabe's gonna pick up his one unknown card. Is this
I
an
think
is
he
this
has 2 unknown.
oh two? Is
Yeah.
this feels like an impulse. Is this an impulse?
Oh, you
Yes.
called it.
It was more than just a hesitation. I feel like
Yeah, but hey, yeah, you're counting that immediately, but
yeah. Uh,
um,
so he's looking for a foil and Thwart is not live here. Daze is not any good. So it's just got to be foil, which I think he only has 2 copies of. Yeah, he just has the 2 foils. So natural order resolves to get a Verdant Force. I guess if Gabe got a Chain of Vapor, then this is not the worst for Gabe. But
right.
each turn this guy stays in play, it becomes more and more problematic for Gabe.
Oh, for sure. It kind of plays pretty good around Stasis.
Yes, your untap is skipped, but your players' upkeeps are not. So
And who's not excited when just Verdant Force is in play? Come on,
yeah,
it's pretty sick.
I'm excited.
Yeah, it's cool.
Though I will say, I mean, just given the art, if I saw the dude in the forest, obviously I'd be a little bit nervous. But of the things to see, he kind of looks kind of friendly. Like I don't know, like maybe on his good day, like he might just be like a friendly dude in the forest, right? You think you could like befriend him if you're not like chopping down a tree and not pissing him off? Seems like he could be like your buddy.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. Yeah, like he's just kind of like mopey.
Yeah, I
I will
read.
say though, it would have been cool if he hard casted it at the Verdant Force, but we'll let natural order happen. Okay, he did bounce it, so he found chain this turn.
Okay,
Wait, is Verdant Force 7 mana?
8.
8. Okay.
And I mean, you have the mana to cast it again. So I certainly would, and you get to play around Daze. So Verdant Force hardcast. We're gonna check this off.
Yeah, if we hard cast this thing, chat must go nuts. And props to Brandon for the 6 Sapperling token. Those things are awesome.
Yes, the invasion ones. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, wait, is this still? He didn't pass turn, right? Because he's thinking about hardcasting that guy. Come on, Brandon. Make him have it. And he probably has a counter spell, but make him have it.
This is kind of the spot where it's like it doesn't really get better. I guess you do have cards like Cabal Therapy and Duress in your deck. So, see this. So this is gonna get Nishoba or Deranged Hermit. I guess. Huh, I don't. I guess I'm trying to think if this is hedging
Hmm.
because I don't think any of the cards he could get are better than Verdant Force. I guess Deranged Hermit is better against a bounce spell, but you just saw a bounce spell, and
Right.
I mean, and there's at least one boomerang in the. Oh, there is a foil from Gabe, so
Yeah, I don't mind this though, right? He's got two cards in hand. One's the Verdant Force. Do you just wait till next turn and
yeah. I
like
mean,
now?
like, so I don't know if Brandon was saying I'm like this is the test spell, the natural order is a test spell, and the Verdant Force is the one I'd rather resolve like the next turn, but or if it was more, um, this is a better one to play around certain cards. I mean, either. I mean, I guess natural order is worse against counterspell because you lose your birds, but if you were getting deranged hermit, which I assume would be the target, because like getting Phantom Nishoba seems worse than trying to cast Verdant Force in that spot.
Hmm. I mean, I don't think I've ever seen a Verdant Force hardcast in Premodern now. So I just
It was just done in the PSS just last week.
it was.
Yeah, the Elves deck was able to hardcast it. So
Oh wait, that was the match I missed. I
okay,
believe. Yeah, because I watched 3 out of the 4.
okay,
Um, so I still haven't personally seen it.
all right. I'm trying to think if I've ever done it. Um, I think the decks that I usually played it was like Reanimator, but I'm not counting myself out. I mean, I had Dark Rituals in that
Are you,
deck.
wait, are you even playing green?
I
Or
play.
I guess
I had like City of Brass and Gemstone Mines, so yeah, I definitely had the ability to cast it. I have to imagine that I have, but I can't remember. Maybe if Andrew Flint remembers, if I played against them on some late night in early 2020, that I probably hardcast a Verdant Force. I know I've hardcast Symbiotic Worm a lot when I play the Pattern Rock list
Mhm.
that plays Symbiotic Worm. I know when I played it like against Leicester, I would just always draw it, and then just the games would go long, and I would just get to 8 mana and cast Symbiotic Worm. But Symbiotic Worm, especially if you don't have Cabal Therapy, a lot less exciting than Verdant Force. So
Yeah, it's not great. um, all right. Yeah, I do miss the era of like you just mentioned 2020 pre-mod. I miss that era of just doing nothing except playing pre-modern. And I mean, I didn't do a lot except for play pre-modern.
let's say, I mean, it's of all the craziness that was going on in the world, it was nice that we found uh, a home to entertain us. I guess in the world of pre-modern is that so.
Oh, for sure. Oh, yeah, there we go. Okay.
Verdant Forest cast with 2 mana up, so a little bit of a buffer against a card like Daze. All right, so Gabe is looking at his graveyard. Okay, it must resolve because there was attack after that. I would say the only card you would think about casting and not cast in that spot, I think, would be Gush. Oh, there's a Boomerang. All right.
This could
Well,
be a
so Gabe has found a lot of the bounce spells. I think he's 2 Boomerangs and a Chain of Vapor. And I guess the good news. So if there's no stasis here for Brandon, then it's not the end of the world.
yeah.
That you kind of just get to do it the next turn. And if it didn't resolve, or if it did, I guess in that spot, like maybe Gabe would, if he had a counter spell, that might be something he would resolve if he knew he had Boomerang. Because obviously spending 8 mana on one turn is a lot. So, all right, we'll try this again. Try number 2. This will be the third time Verdant Force is in play this game. Second time it's been cast. So
It's just not meant to be. You're supposed to natural order into play.
I would say of all situations, like I don't feel like Brandon is unhappy with just untapping and using this Verdant Force as a test spell. Like if you're going through the bounce spells now, then it's just less likely that like it's going to be there later. And if Verdant Force, one, it's going to end the game quickly if it connects. But then two, it gives you the best protection against stasis. And if 3 or 4 copies of the bounce spells of the 6 bounce spells are already gone, it just makes it that much more likely. Was that another? Oh, he just hasn't cast it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I thought we got to another chain of vapor, but
Oh, it's treetop time. So
all right. Well, it's a 3-turn clock because it's 3 from the Treetop Village and 1 from the Sapperling. And I mean, like, yeah, this could be a spot where you're like, hey, because so let's see. I try to think. So how many turns would the Verdant Force have killed in? So he would have been at 11. Oh, going for natural order. Okay, I think I would get Deranged Hermit here. Oh, there's a Thwart from Gabe, so we don't even get the option. Still a 3-turn clock. So like for Brandon, so if Stasis is not coming down, then you can just clock with this Treetop Village, I think. Or you can commit the Verdant Force. I mean, I think either are viable options. Because you've seen that, like, I mean, I guess maybe every turn it's been either bounce or there's been a counter spell. So it's not for certain that Gabe doesn't have any counter magic for this Verdant Force. But it just feels like Gabe is just holding on and just barely hanging in there.
Mm.
But do you have like a fan going, or it just sounds like a scraping every now and then? Is there something going on? There's like a creature in the closet. What's going on?
My daughter's snoring.
Okay, all right.
She's a snorer.
That makes it so much more innocent and cute. I was saying, like, maybe it was your dog too, because there was another episode, right? Your dog.
Oh yeah. My dog is a famous snorer. Unfortunately, my dog passed away in January.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. So
yeah, thanks, man. But yeah, she was great. She would snore a lot on camera.
Okay, I say there's definitely times that like I'm downstairs on the couch with my daughter and we could hear my wife snoring from upstairs.
Oh, so. Yeah, it's funny. My wife and daughter, they're both snorers.
Okay.
Yeah, it's really annoying.
All right. Meanwhile, this treetop's gotten in twice, and so now Gabe is at 2 life, and Brandon has a good amount of mana. So even if our stasis were to come down, you're able to like draw go and play out a number of cards, and then like pretty much any threat that comes is a lethal threat. So Gabe is going to hard cast a Gush. Cast Gush the hard way. How often do you do that? Oh, okay. He picked up cards. I thought he was scooping.
It's not the greatest thing. That's when Gush is fair, I guess. Stasis. Dang, she is really snoring loud.
It's fine.
Well, she wouldn't let me. She had to come up here, so
I'll say I don't know if chat can hear it because there are like it has to be like past a certain level and it's not super loud. Like it might come through on my whereby, but I don't know if they hear it. But maybe they do. I don't know. But either way, it's
Yeah, they're not missing anything. It's not.
oh, they said they can't.
Oh man, I'll
All
let
right.
them know in the morning. Everyone heard her snoring.
All right, we got
Uh,
recurring nightmare as a test spell, so that can turn Birds of Paradise into a Blastoderm. There is a stasis in play, but yeah, I think Blastoderm would be the card that I would get, unless I mean Deranged Hermit also. Actually, I think Blastoderm is probably a safer bet, but
yeah,
I mean either seems pretty good in the spot when you're at two. Um, Maybe if there were sideboard cards like Hibernation, I guess that wouldn't matter either way. Um,
it would be like hibernation or like almost ensnare, right? Just things to.
yeah, but that gets both those creatures either way, I think so.
Oh right, yeah, yeah. So I think
It's not like
yeah,
one is better. Yeah, and the Verdant Force is still in hand, right?
yes, it is.
So otherwise, that would probably be the recurring nightmare. Okay,
Okay, that's pretty good actually.
it still goes back to your hand. I think this just happened
Yeah,
to me the during the monthly. So because it is part of the cost of recurring nightmare, is to sacrifice a creature and return it to the hand.
you just lose the creature. So
Yep.
yeah, I guess. Oh,
But it going back to the hand is very relevant because it means
totally.
that Brennan does have to commit the mana, and now he's going to activate the Treetop Village. So it is a creature. We're going to sacrifice this. I think this will be Blastoderm. Chad says it's time to pay the price. All right, Blastoderm in play with Shroud with Gabe at 2 life. I don't think there are any cards in his deck. I that would deal with this. So I think Gabe is dead to rights.
Right, yeah, nothing in the main deck here.
So yes, I mean Gabe is still doing stuff. What? What? Let me. I'm looking at his list. Uh, I don't see anything. He can meditate. Meditate is kind of cute, but I feel like I don't know if the idea is
Yeah, that's it.
meditate under stasis kind of thing. But
Yeah,
if you have 3 extra mana, I feel like you're usually kind of sitting pretty. But there might be times. There's only one copy, so it's a one of fun of. But yeah, so Raka's going to equalize, and now we get to look at sideboards to see how those will impact our sideboard games. So I have the rock list of. So we have Attrition, Duress, 4 Engineered Plague, 3 Naturalize, 3 Phyrexian Furnace, 2 Ravenous Baloth, Spike Weaver. So certainly like 3 Naturalize and 1 Duress. I would look at those right away. Uh, what are the clunkiest cards? So the big question is do you take out the natural order package? Because obviously it is risky to cast a card like natural order against a deck that has so many counterspells. But I think because you have a card like Verdant Force, it is kind of like a cute little trump card against Stasis. They need a bounce spell to deal with the Verdant Force. So I would not fault Brandon if he kept the natural orders in, but it definitely seems like a card is like, this seems like a little scary to cast. But okay, Phantom Nishoba I would take out. The Blastoderm seem great. I would keep those in. Uh, I mean, even Deranged Hermit is kind of nice. Like, because because it's a card that like goes wide. So like even if you never intend to pay the Echo, just putting 4 tokens into play is nice because you either hit for 4 or like it's harder to answer because Gabe's at least his main deck answers to a resolve spell or bounce spells.
What
So
about you didn't mention Call the Herd, right? That should come out.
oh yeah, I guess I mean
The
there's A little bit, like, I mean, obviously, like, it's bad against power spells, but
Mhm.
you have the option to play it like twice. But yeah, it is kind of mana intensive. Honestly, like, Vindicate is not. I mean, maybe you have like one, but like three Vindicates is like it's actually
Ye-
really clunky. Like 3 mana sorcery is kind of a pain. So I mean, I wouldn't be surprised because you already have deeds, and if you have naturalizes, like you don't need that many effects. But it's not the worst thing to have. Uh, Top card of the sideboard is Attrition, and so there's one black enchantment, and it has the activated ability of black sacrifice a creature to destroy, I believe, a non-black creature. Recurring Nightmare is also a card that I don't know. It's pretty good because I was to say like if you get to the spot if they're answering like test spells like Deranged Hermits or even like a Blastoderm dies, it can exchange your Wall of Roots or Birds of Paradise into a real threat. But I think I still like the Recurring Nightmare. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how Brandon sideboards, but I'll bring up the Stasis sideboard. There's 2 copies of Annul, 2 Brain Freeze, 2 Ensnare, 3 Powder Keg, 2 Propaganda, 2 Duress, and 2 Tsabo's Web. I think a lot of these cards have like some utility. I mean, Annul is good against a Pernicious Deed, but that is, I think, likely the only target. Ensnare is fine. It could give you a lot of time against stuff and is a way to kind of interact with Verdant Force making tokens. But I guess it would only save you extra life because they're actually it's not any better against Verdant Force than really any other card. But still might have its place because of like a card like Blastoderm. Not taking a chunk of 5 is pretty good. Powder Keg is reasonable. There are a lot of tokens. Propaganda is a card too. I could see that. That is an answer to a resolved Verdant Force that you have to make them pay 2 for each little attack. So I'm interested to see what cards Gabe will prioritize because I think a lot of these have a lot of utility in this matchup.
Well, for sure, take that meditate out. Get that thing out of here.
Get that out of here. I think I take Stifle out as well. I don't think that.
Yeah, yeah.
I try to think like what the motivation of having Stifle in your Stasis list is. It does not seem like a card that I would like. Are there? I guess it stifles Pernicious Deed, so maybe there's a little bit more utility than I thought.
Mhm.
It just being open deckless is kind of interesting because Brandon doesn't know if they're in the deck or not, and usually if a resolve deed is like you're like okay, I just have to play around a bounce spell in the Stasis, and you have to be worried about potentially Stifle as well if they're still in the main. All right, let's jump back down. Players it looks like they're still shuffling up, but I think we'll be starting soon. I'm just gonna message them and let them know they can go. All right, let them know that they can just go whenever they're ready. So I never talked about who's the hero in this match. I don't think it's a very lengthy discussion.
Oh no, yeah, we know.
The deck with Verdant Force is the hero. I think.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Could you put Verdant Force in your deck and not be the hero? Maybe if you're elves, natural order elves.
Yeah, maybe then because like it's elves.
And I feel like Reanimator is just not played enough that I feel like it's hard for that deck to be the bad guy.
I agree. Yeah, it's just if it was like a tier 1 deck, then you can't. But
Have you looked at Reanimator at all? I know you played Blue Black and was that last Spring Fling, or was that a Fall Brawl?
that's Fall Brawl.
Okay.
Yeah, a little bit. It's definitely more playable. If Burn, like, yeah, I mean, in meta of Burn being the best or like most played deck, it's really good.
I thought about playing it in like just a green black Reanimator and just having Survival of the Fittest, and then have one copy of all your targets, and then. But I guess I would have Mesmeric Fiends, I guess I don't know what else you supplement it, but then you're also in that spot where it's kind of like, am I? Because clearly, when survival's in the play, you're not a better survival deck than Full English Breakfast or Elves or anything.
Right.
But is the argument is, are you a better deck when it's not in play? And maybe that's true because you might just be able to like Cabal Therapy yourself and then reanimate a creature or discard with a whatever enabler and reanimate it. I don't know. It's something that I've thought about and never really put on paper. But we do have our third game starting. Brandon is going to kick it off. Oh, I guess Gabe had the turn one Black Vise, and then Brandon has turn one Birds, which is really important against the Black Vise. Allows you to get out under just a little bit easier. Get an extra card out of your hand and then have an extra mana. I love how chat always finds a way to give some jabs at Mike Flores and his Stasis deck with Guy's Blessing and Verdant Force. So the reference is that in the PSS that Mike Flores was first in, he last minute switched a deck to a version of Stasis that he had never played and brewed himself. It was splashing for Guy's Blessing, and he was not successful with it in the PSS. I don't think it was ever attempted to be played afterwards, and forever is a long infamous story of Mike in the PSS with Stasis. So
surprised you invited him back.
Yep. He took a season. He had to take a season off, but then he came back, and we didn't have to deny any Stasis submissions of his list. So yeah, he chose not to submit Stasis, which I think is wise.
Yeah. Yeah, but at least this time Mike brought, playable decks.
I guess, yeah, Mike Arnold is in the chat. He was saying, I came so close yet so far with Reanimated of Spring Fling. I think he finished X and 2, and I think he was, 10th place. It was somewhere around there. Or maybe it was, I know at some point he was like on the bubble of like the top 8, but like people hadn't finished their matches, so I think he got pushed down. But there was definitely a point where he had an outside shot at making top 8.
Yeah, he beat me in the first batch, I think. His deck was sweet.
Was it doing anything different, or was it just a classic Reanimator?
Yeah, I think he was playing like Putrid Imp over, like, kind of like blue-black, but Putrid Imp over the Hapless Researcher, because we talked about some of these. I don't think he had Show and Tell. I don't think he was running it.
Yeah. That's still not a card. I have not acquired it yet. I have a lot of the pre-modern cards. I have not bought any of the Show and Tells yet.
Yeah, well, luckily it's not playable. So,
people.
But my results were sort of skewed.
Okay.
Playing against 3 opponents that had Ravenous Rats, but.
Ravenous Rat against the Reanimator deck is
joking. I've heard 3 of my 8 opponents was against Ravenous Rats decks, but oh yeah. So I see Mike's comment now. Yeah, he was more like Turbo Reanimator. Mine was a little bit more, I guess, grindy. But Mike's deck, Mike Arnold's deck was sick.
All right, I guess focusing back on this game. So Brandon has added a Wall of Roots, and now looks like he was attempting to cast a Duress, but that was Arcane Denial. And then he gushed. Oh, no, it was a gut. Yeah, okay. There was a gush involved as well.
Okay.
All right, so Brandon is going to attempt a deed here. I guess with just a Forsaken City in play, there's just the Annul and Foil would be the answers. And you're never going to get Gabe in a spot where he doesn't have a mana open pretty much, so Annul is always going to be online. I guess unless you're waiting for a discard spell. But I mean, and even so, there's only 2 in the sideboard.
All right, so no counter.
So Deed sticks. Certainly, like a feeling that Brandon can relax a little, because even if the Black Vise gets like out of control, you can always just activate the Deed and kind of reset things. You'd lose your Birds of Paradise, but that's not the end of the world. But and he does opt to draw the 2 cards off the Arcane Denial. Not surprising. I mean, I think probably 90% of the time plus you're drawing 2 with that.
Yeah.
Do you own Arcane Denials? Because
Yeah.
there's multiple arts. You know which one?
Oh yeah, I have my go-to. It's the one. I think the one Gabe's playing. One more is like the art with like fire.
Okay.
Yeah, the other one's good too. They're both fine.
Yeah, I don't know on my fetcher how to bring up the other one, but are they both Richard Kane Ferguson? They might be.
Yeah, he did both.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, the fire one. How do you go against it? You know, like the art is just.
It's pretty sweet.
Yeah.
Oh, I can think of the other one. I might actually use the other one.
I mean, no, they're both good. It's
Yeah.
just.
But now that I look at this one, it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
We got someone in chat cheering for Stasis, and maybe that's sarcasm, but
Yeah, I don't buy it.
it's yeah.
Stop trolling.
All the Stasis fans are coming out of the woodwork. Stasis.
Yeah, I don't know about that, but if anyone cheering for Stasis is going to LobsterCon, prove it and wear like have a Stasis shirt on or something.
Oh, we do see a call to herd, so looks like Brandon wants the ability to make multiple threats with 1 card. I guess that is kind of a hedge against counter spells. It's built-in card advantage there, but in this situation, it's a little bit awkward. I mean, it's another card that dies to the Deed if you have to activate it. But I mean, I guess it's kind of those things as like, if you lose a card to Deed or whatever, it's probably not that big of a deal, because like the card disadvantage is not that big of a deal, because 1, if a Black Vise is dealing you damage, it's because you have cards in your hand.
Mm-hmm.
And then 2, you're probably getting a Stasis with it, and which is very pivotal to what Gabe's trying to do. Like, his whole deck is built around it. So even if you're losing some number of cards by activating a Deed, I don't think it's the end of the world from the Rock player.
All right, so down to 17. And maybe I was wrong. Maybe it's just right to have called the herd in, because they're not always going to have this, like, well, Brandon's deck, not saying his spells are clunky, but I mean, you're not going to be able to get rid of all these high CMC cards.
Mm-hmm.
But and then they're not always going to have Stasis. And you need a clock, right? You can't give them time.
Well, and I mean, I guess Gabe does have a ton of cards in the hand, but there's also spots like where it's not just like if Stasis comes down and there's a Black Vise. It's not like the game just ends. Like, the game still plays out. Like, Gabe has to pay for Stasis every turn. Like, he has to commit resources, whether it's cards or mana, to upkeep the Stasis. And there are definitely times where you can either wait it out or develop your mana or discard spells to a spot where you're going to say, I'm going to play Cabal Therapy, flash it back, and then cast a Naturalize. Like, doing that all in one turn is very strenuous on the Stasis deck. So the Rock certainly has a lot of play, especially because of a card like Cabal Therapy, to counteract even if a Stasis does come down.
Yep, you're
right. This is
that one. Oh, Impulse.
Okay. I was gonna say, I'm like, at first he drew 2 cards. I'm like, it's Gush, but he didn't return the islands. It's his white border Gush. I don't know. It's the white border Impulse.
Well, they drew 4. I'm like, wait a minute. So I guess the D's is not that bad for Gabe right now, right? Because he can wait for a spot to bounce the deed, which this could be it now. Oh, bounce Wall of Roots.
Interesting. Okay. I mean, I guess that's signaling that you're going to try and cast Stasis. But you could just bounce the elephant token and then take away. Oh, he's going for a Stasis here. Okay.
Oh, this has got a. So, I mean, does he want Bren to blow up his entire board? Well, why bounce the Wall of Roots then?
Sure.
Let's see, he has Stifle. Yeah, he may have kept Stifle in, and he was just setting up this spot to.
But again, like this is not. I mean, it also depends on what's in Brandon's hand. But like, this is not game over because the Stasis comes down. Like you have 6 available mana and a deed in play.
Probably Naturalize coming. Yep.
So, let's say like you kind of have to expect Gabe to have something, because obviously there's a. I guess if the deed was activated, then Brandon's losing birds and the threat. So maybe I just feel like I would, unless I don't know how many cards are in Brandon's hand if he's taking damage from the Black Vise, but I feel like I'd be more patient with this Naturalize.
Daze.
I think that's one you're happy to pay. But it is always a little bit scary because like a lot of times when you just see someone like dazing, it's like, oh yeah, I'll pay 1. But like paying 1 against the Stasis deck actually like is pretty good because it's right now you're not untapping. So so one thing is like a little bit subtle, but there are incentives for Brandon to use the Birds of Paradise before lands, because there could be situations where like Chain of Vapor or Boomerang could come into play, and I guess Boomerang would be able to bounce a land, or but you can replay a land much easier than you can replay a Birds. Yeah, like we see that Brandon is opting to use the Birds before the lands. I mean, also with Pernicious Deed, if that was going to be activated, the Birds would be gone anyways.
I'm still curious of the Wall of Roots bounce. 2 cards in hand for Gabe. That's all he has. Like I'm assuming that he has Stifle in hand.
Yeah, because I mean, or he has multiple bounce spells. Because I mean, the bounce spell is very good if you deed and then in response you bounce your own Stasis.
Right. Yep.
The danger is that if your opponent has like a discard spell, then you can really get caught with your like hand in the cookie jar. Like if that's your plan and then they go Duress, you can't Boomerang the Stasis, and then because you obviously would be taken with it. Oh, so yeah, I don't know what Gabe's plan was. If it does seem very aggressive, I don't know if it's the word of using that Boomerang to get maybe just the mana he felt was like a big thing. We see a second naturalize attempted from Brandon, but Gabe is going to have a Thwart, which is going to, I think, if first floated a mana and then picked up 3 islands.
Yep. So 1 blue floating, 1 card unknown. I don't know how many cards Brandon has in hand.
I don't either. But this is a situation where it's like now you've played into like Stasis' plan of like committing resources, not only tapping your lands, but then like you do have a limited amount of like cards that destroy Stasis. Like there's
Mhm.
3 copies of Naturalize, maybe there's 3 copies of Vindicate, and then the 4 copies of Deed. One is still in play, but you got your Naturalize countered while Gabe also got to pick up 3 islands. So that's obviously like a very good exchange. And because there is a Black Vice in play, then Brandon, like if there weren't any Black Vice, then you just say, okay, then we're just gonna draw go. But eventually, like Brandon, if he's not just hitting land drops all the time, his hand is gonna build up and he's gonna be under a clock. So looks like 3 cards are in hand for Brandon, and I think he's making mana with this Wall of Roots. So I didn't keep track of is because I think it's more than a 1 mana he has in his pool, but I don't know if it's 2 or 3.
Oh, from Brandon's side.
Yeah, I didn't see how many untapped lands he had prior to this.
Actually, I missed that too. It's getting late for us old folks. You know? Okay, so
It was a 3rd naturalized. There's 3 in the graveyard now. Okay, so
yeah,
it was 2 mana and foil was the response. So I mean that makes a lot more sense in terms of the how. Like I think I said I'm like I would have waited there with the naturalize or whatever.
yep.
If you have 3 copies of it in your hand, then I think you're okay with Gabe committing a lot of resources because now Gabe has. Does he not have any cards in his hand?
Yeah, that was it.
Oh, okay. This is a position I think Brandon likes his spot a lot more. I mean, he probably liked it to begin with when he had 3 naturalized in his hand, but I was to say like this is a spot if you countered all the reactive spells, though. I mean, there's still the deed in play, but Gabe I think is in a lot of trouble here.
Yeah, especially now that he could. Um, he can basically D when he wants to.
I don't think he's going to need to. I think the stasis is going to get.
Yeah, just
I
yeah,
mean, you're happy if Gabe is spending his mana or exiling cards in his hand. I think either of those are good. Like and especially if you're hitting land drops and like even if you're taking 1 or 2 damage a turn from the Black Vice, I still might be patient from Brandon's perspective and not blow up the deed. Because if you can get rid of that stasis with and keep the deed in play, then like you're in awesome shape. You get to keep your clock, you get to keep the elephant token and the birds of paradise, and there's a lot of value with not blowing up this deed and it preemptively answers the next stasis as well.
the worst case scenario is just Gabe gets he finds Gush, right?
Yeah, because that I think is the one card that he can kind of pick up islands on his own. Because the other cards like Thwart and Daze, you need Brandon to cast spells. Like this is a spot where I don't think Brandon wants to cast spells. But yeah, Gush is a painful one to see when you go for that line of kind of waiting out the stasis. I mean, also Chain of Vapor is the other one that.
Yep.
But I mean, because Gabe has 2 islands and 2 Forsaken cities. Like Chain of Vapor is not that good here because you would chain a stasis and then only untap 2 islands and then you're back in the same spot, or you have to commit like cards to untap the Forsaken city. So this is a spot where Chain of Vapor is not too scary. So we're on Gabe's turn of whether what's he gonna do? He's gushing main phase.
Yeah.
He has already played his land though, right?
Yeah, he played that island, I think.
So he's just looking to untap lands with Forsaken City. Yeah, I don't really like If he's played his land this turn, I don't like gushing here. I think I would wait. Seems it does not seem good to gush an untapped land.
Mm. Oh wait, no, I think he. No, I think the island was in play. So I think he had 4 mana.
No, he's only got one floating. There were. Uh,
Oh wait, chat. They believe this is end of turn for Brandon. Yeah, 'cause I think Gabe only had the one unknown, so it was a gush.
that's still like there's.
Yeah, I'm not sure. It's the same thing, right? You just don't need to.
Well, I mean, I still don't think you would want to do it on a turn because the only advantage to do it is you have more cards in hand to untap Forsaken Cities. But if it was end of turn, you just use tap the island, and there's. I don't think there's like how is he going to utilize this one floating mana if it is Brandon's end of turn? I guess we'll see, but I'm confused by this timing of this gush. That's what I'll say. So Gabe has resolved this gush, and he's what card would make him pause for so long? Chain of Vapor is the only thing I can think of. Is there something in the sideboard that I
Not that would. No, I don't think so. Right? No, not for 1 mana.
Yeah. So Chain of Vapor is his only spell I think he could cast on the spot. All right.
Okay. Yep. So Chain of Vapor it is.
I'm
He's going for the wall again.
okay. So
Blowing it up. Okay.
we're using Deed, but I would say if Chain of Vapor resolves there, like what? How does Gabe take advantage of that situation? He has 2 Forsaken Cities in play.
Yeah, I'm not sure. That was it was interesting. I want to try to.
Maybe I'm overlooking, but I'm confused that the chain was cast there, and I'm confused that the deed was activated there too.
Mhm.
So we have
So now we
another stasis.
This could be trouble then.
But there's no Black Vise.
No, and he bounced the wall.
Yeah. Which eventually, like Brandon's going to draw lands and be able to cast
better
it.
for Brandon, I think. I'm not.
So like every turn, Gabe's going to have to pitch a card, and does he only have 1 card in his hand?
Yeah, it's the island.
Okay.
Oh no, he pitched the island, so it's unknown. Okay, well, it was an island.
I don't know. This
is also awkward too, right? Because he's like, how are you going to get out of from your own stasis?
Yeah, I don't see the advantage for Gabe. I mean, it certainly gives him time, like, but what is the line where he turns the corner? Like, he can pay for this stasis, but he's using all his resources. Like, what card? You don't even have 2 islands if you drew a gush.
Yeah.
I guess if you drew a Chain of Vapor, but every island you draw is like, okay, that's better than exiling it, but still.
Yeah, now he's basically going to draw Gush or Island every turn.
Well, I mean, every card can just be exiled.
Oh, right. Yeah. But still, are you just like spinning wheels?
Yeah, that's the thing is like you're spinning wheels, and like I don't even feel like you're. I mean, I get in the situations where you're drawing lands, that's good because then like it's better to. He's able to get more mana on the board, but it doesn't seem super likely that it would go like this. So
Ryan said he could have fired back the chain on the Stasis and kept the deed.
he was targeting the. Could have fired back on the chain. Oh no, I think I think the chain of vapor was targeting the stasis. I don't think it was targeting the wall of roots.
Oh, and then he blew it up the deed in response.
Yeah, I think that's what it was. But.
Oh wait, no, because he bounced the wall. Like so, wall of roots is in Breaking Tangle.
Oh.
Yeah, and then yeah. So.
Well, the.
I might make a note of it just so we can ask them afterwards. 'Cause I'm curious from both sides why.
Well,
it's a lot more difficult to assess when you're like involved too.
Yeah.
Yeah, full belly. The chain. Yeah, I'm pretty sure he did target the wall of roots.
Maybe he did. I was under the impression that he was targeting his own stasis, but because that's typically the thing is you target yours and then target theirs, right. But
he did bounce wall of roots twice.
So interesting that Gabe has 2 Forsaken Cities because Brandon has just played a Dust Bowl, which would give Brandon the option if Gabe were completely tapped out and only had 1 Forsaken City that he could destroy it and then deny Gabe the ability to pay for Stasis. But because he has 2, you can't really, because it's during your. Yeah, it's your upkeep. Yeah, there's you would be able to float the mana and pay for it.
Oh, Vindicate. So maybe you're right though, because maybe he just kept like 1 Vindicate in.
He might have kept more and just really like wanted to be heavy on answers to Stasis.
All right, so he thwarts the Vindicate.
And so now, like again, this is a spot where like now this has just progressed Gabe in a better manner.
Yeah, no, I agree. Right. You don't want to give them spots to get more cards in their hand. But I mean, what's Brandon going to do? I mean, unless he just goes like you said, he's going to draw more. Like I don't know.
Well,
what the right thing to do is.
Because obviously, because your mana is finite because of the stasis, right. And so, but Gabe has to commit resources to keep the stasis in play. So if you just go at parity and there's no Black Vise in play, then Gabe is losing ground, except for maybe if he draws Gush, right? And like, and if he draws Island, I think it's like. He's slightly advantaged because he's able to pay for stasis and he's adding a land. But, I mean, then every time Brandon draws a land, he's advantaged too, in that he's progressing his board state. So I don't think it's that valuable because it was like Gabe was barely hanging on to keeping that stasis in play to begin with. And to spend 3 mana and a card, and then the disaster scenario happened where Thwart came. And so, yeah. But. Yeah, Ryan, I understand he's able to do it because he's able to accumulate islands, but like this is a spot where Gabe had 1 card in hand, and he's never going to get above that unless he draws Gush. So you just don't have to do anything, and then you're able to stockpile resources, and the stasis player is just falling behind. And so now we see a Black Vise. So now that situation changes. Like Brandon's under pressure. Like
Yeah.
now he's forced to act.
And he used all 3 naturalized. I don't know if he can now. He's not going to be able to recover most likely.
No, I mean we see Brandon use 3 naturalize and a vindicate and a deed. It's unlikely that he will get the amount of mana and the card he needs in time before the Black Vise kills him. So I do think this is a situation that Gabe got out of. Yeah, I think he was able to convert this into a win. Oh, the card revealed, I think it's an annul. Is that?
No, it's Annul. Yep.
Okay.
Which is also problematic, right? Because if he's has any.
Yeah, the deed is probably the card that.
Yeah. I think he's at 6 cards in hand after that land drop, so he's.
All right, so the die on top of the deck for Brandon.
Gush. All right. Well, that's also bad for Brandon.
Yeah, so he right now Brandon has Forest and Windswept Heath untapped. But the only card I think he would need a combination. First, he just needs to draw lands every turn. But if he's taking 2 every turn, he doesn't have that much time. And then he would need to have a discard spell and a deed. That seems like a lot of things to string together under a Stasis Black Vise lock.
Yes. While also dodging any counter spells from Gabe. And Windswept's unfortunate too, right? You just don't want to take any damage.
Yeah. Or even you'd rather have extra lands in your deck too.
Yeah, true.
I'm trying to think even like what Brandon's game plan from this position is. Are there cards that I guess Vindicate, he might be hope that Vindicate could just stick. Because he's seen the annul, and so it's like very unlikely that a deed would like obviously deed would get annulled.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it.
Okay.
I say it's like very likely Gabe's got anywhere between 1 and 3 counter spells in his hand.
Yeah, and I mean it might not even been a choice that Brandon like just didn't even have the answer in his hand, and he was just going to die before he'd be able to see it, and so even without the counter spells. But yeah, Gabe gets out of a kind of a sticky situation, and then is able to turn that corner and get a game out of it. So now Gabe's up 2 games to 1.
Yes, yeah, that was pretty sick actually. I mean, it's Stasis, but it's cool seeing like a player and a like turn the corner.
Sure.
Because I at one point, I mean, I think Brandon was heavily favored, so that was pretty sick.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Now I don't think Brandon really did anything wrong. It's just that Gabe was able to line that up.
Well, that one turn with the chain of vapor targeting the Stasis, there were.
We need to ask them about that after because like that could have been where like the mistake. It was like we'll have to get more context of what happened.
Yeah, I guess like because there were 2 Forsaken Cities and 2 islands in play.
Mm-hmm.
It's I guess how does Gabe, and I don't think it's not like Gabe had like 7 cards in hand that he'd be untapping those Forsaken Cities. Like I think he had like 1 or 2 cards, and so I don't know.
Was it targeting Stasis, targeting Deed? would fit, would happen better, maybe. Stasis. Oh, we're not 100% sure.
Well, even if it, I mean, like, even if it is targeting Deed, like, it still seems like a situation you could just wait out the stasis.
Yeah, but from what we saw, though, we're pretty sure it was targeting the Wall of Roots.
Yeah.
But he bounced Wall of Roots twice. I mean, I don't know.
Something to note. That'll be definitely, we'll have to clarify that turn. And I mean, from both players' perspective, I guess, what their thought process was. And maybe we're misunderstanding what the situation was, but yeah. So in terms of cards, we didn't see any natural orders, though there weren't that many spots where Brandon wanted to cast natural order. But I'm guessing that he kept the Vindicates in and took the natural orders out.
That makes sense. And then from Gabe's side, we just saw Annul. I think that's the only.
We didn't see Ensnare. We didn't see Propaganda. I mean, Propaganda seems okay.
It does. I'm looking at his list now. I wonder if he just brought in like Annul and Tsabo's Web.
You would bring in Web?
I don't know. I mean, he's only got. I probably not actually.
It's not.
Tsabo's Web just. It's not that great here.
The thing is, like, well, it's it's low, like the floor of the card. So at its worst, it's not that bad. Because usually, like, you usually have the time, I'm gonna say, to squeeze it in, and like shutting off Treetop Village and drawing a card is pretty good. But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, probably not here. And Stasis is one of those decks you really don't want to. It's cliche, right? But like over sideboard, but it's so true. I know it sounds cliche, but it is very, very true. Like Stasis is definitely one you can't hinder your game plan. Like so many of your spells, like even though it's all reactive counters, like they just are too important. I don't know. The times I've only played Stasis a handful of times, but it just seems like you don't want to put yourself in a spot where you're like, you don't want to change too much of your game plan.
So Brandon's going to start things off with a Duress. I will note that
Propaganda.
There is merit to keeping Duress and not playing it early, and like say like I'm just gonna save this for the late game of trying to squeeze in like a spell after Stasis has resolved. But it looks like Brandon is gonna opt for like I'll say curving out. I don't know if that's the case, but he's gonna play it on turn one. Now he has information of what Gabe's hand started with. We saw. Was it Propaganda Islands, Forsaken City, Annul, and Foil? Is it Annul or it is Propaganda, not Annul?
Yeah.
There's a lot of islands, Forsaken City, Propaganda, Foil, and he'll take the Foil.
Oh yeah, Slid was saying that you swap out some counterspells for better counterspells. Very true. Right, you take out the worst ones for hard counters like Annul. Surprised Gabe kept that hand. That hand is. I mean, I guess Brandon's deck's not, turn 3 combo or something.
So this is a spot where you're looking and saying, like, if Brandon has a bunch of mana, I guess your opponent doesn't have counter spells. So I guess this is not a spot where I would want to attack with Treetop Village. I'd rather be playing. And I guess Propaganda also makes that way worse too. I was thinking that was an Annul and not a Propaganda.
Tormod's Crypt.
I guess that's good against Cabal Therapy and Recurring Nightmare. But that was not a card I guess I really would have prioritized. Interesting. Also playing it there. I mean, I guess it's vulnerable in your hand to discard, but like, I'm thinking like Deed, but I guess that doesn't matter. The one thing about Cabal Therapy is Brandon can cast Cabal Therapy, and if there's a creature in play, he can just hold priority and not give Gabe the chance to flashback the Tormod's Crypt. So I don't feel like it's like that effective against fighting therapy if Brandon's really patient with it.
Right.
So Wall of Roots is attempted from Brandon. Arcane Denial is the answer. So Brandon gets a couple of cards while Gabe gets one. What if that process just could be repeated over and over and over? Like Brandon, like trade secrets. So it's like
yeah. like what's the cycle? Like the chain cycle.
I think it's a. Oh yeah, it would kind of be like that too. So I was thinking trade tickets. So trade tickets. Target opponent draws 2 cards, then you draw up to 4 cards, and that opponent can repeat that process many times. So it'd be like, okay, like Brandon draws 2 up to 2, and Gabe can draw 1, and then Gabe can I guess Brandon can say I want to draw 2 more, and Gabe says I'll draw 1.
Right.
I guess yeah.
We just draw games if you want.
I guess that card would be way worse because Brandon then's gonna get 4 cards.
Yeah.
Pretty much every time. All right, Stasis does come down, and with the Forsaken City, Gabe's able to convert cards in hand. So he's got an island, and is it just one other card?
I think 2 unknown.
2? Okay.
I think, yeah. Naturalize. Daze.
I would say I would not. This is I do not think it's worth. You're not under the pressure. I would just wait. Because every turn Gabe has to commit resources to keeping that stasis in play.
Yeah, the only thing you have to worry about is just if they do have Gush, but I still think you still have to wait though. You have to just but again, it could be Brandon's I don't know. Maybe his hand is just
you could always naturalize in response to Gush in that spot.
Right, yeah. Which is maybe the right thing to do. Just do it in between. Still got a long way to go, but this could be rough for Brandon.
Yeah, but I mean, we're kind of back to the same situation. I mean, I guess the difference is Brandon is 2 mana down and a naturalize, but Gabe is still treading water in some sense. Right. He gets to add islands to the board. He's got 2 unknowns, but I mean, it's a little bit different. Like the difference between 2 cards and 1 card, or because in the last game it was literally just 1 card in Gabe's hand, and it's really hard to get out of that situation. Here, there's a lot more wiggle room that Gabe can play different cards. So he plays a Forsaken City when an island is known. Is the only reason I can think of that is foil. Because that would want you to discard a card, an island. But other than that, I feel like, or if you're exiling 2 cards from your hand, I don't think that's the case here. But I would. Gabe is representing foil, I think. So okay, another naturalize is attempted, and this is going to get dazed.
Yeah, so he pays the 1. Oh wait, was there a mistake made? Oh, I think so.
Okay, so Brandon had 3 mana, and that.
Yeah, I think the way Gabe's kind of moving with body language, maybe he thought City of Bresh was in his hand. don't know if you saw, it was like the city press was like down.
Oh,
Like, um, just a little unfortunate misplay, I guess. Um,
okay. All right, so Brandon
what,
gets
oh,
the.
sorry, definitely no foil though.
Yeah.
Right? Like you still like I agree with you. You keep the island there for the foil, or you just bluff the foil. But
Yeah.
now we know there's no foil. Did Gabe draw an extra card?
Uh, he had two unknowns, right? It was two unknowns and an island, and then he drew one card. I don't think so. All right, Cabal Therapy is cast. Gabe shows his hand of island, island. That another island?
Yeah, 3 islands and a null.
Okay. And then Brandon will go for Deranged Hermit. Are you going to pay Echo on this?
Let me see. 22. Yes.
That was my inclination too. I guess it
Yeah,
depends what's in your hand. Like if you're going to play other threats,
true.
maybe it's just worth 5 mana for 4/4 tokens.
But I think you just dodge stasis and you got the game, right? 2 turn clock with Treetop. So I think you just do it.
Well, if you're paying Echo, then Treetop. It would it be 8, then 11. So it's not a 2-turn clock if you don't have another land.
No, he does, right? That forest I think is 5. And he's got the swamp and city.
Oh, okay, because it was
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
He had 6 mana on this turn. Okay, you're right.
Yeah. So I think you just do it, right? And the only thing you have to dodge at this point, honestly, is stasis.
Propaganda.
I mean, Gabe did bring it in. I'm curious about the Tormod Crypt. I mean, propaganda is definitely reasonable. Tormod's, though.
It got a Cabal Therapy in that spot.
True.
I would say if Brandon, he definitely intends to pay Echo because otherwise I think you would just Cabal Therapy and take a null in that spot. All right, we're attacking for 9.
Which makes sense, right? You don't have to do Treetop this turn.
Yeah, don't have to commit it this turn.
Yeah.
I think the only way you could punish is a card like Propaganda, but
Which Gabe has 2, right? So it's possible he drew it here.
but even then, there's
2 mana Gush, Impulse.
I would say if there's Propaganda and no Stasis, it's not that bad. You could just, all right, I'll pay some mana for the squirrels to attack.
Yeah. All right, Ryan's giving props for Brandon's token game. I agree.
Yeah.
I think I like the Odyssey Squirrel a little better.
Okay.
That one, the unglued one, is sick.
I try to think what the Odyssey one looks like.
It's Ron Spencer. It's like crawling out of a tree.
Okay.
The only problem with that one is, though, it's like the squirrel. It's like the squirrel doesn't stand out as well. It's kind of like the same color as the background. If I'm picturing it, yeah.
I'm just gonna type in squirrel in my card fetcher and see what comes up.
Yeah, see if we can find that one.
Oh no. Oh, if I type Odyssey, maybe it would work.
Oh yeah, Fran says Odyssey one's like the rabbit squirrel. Yeah.
Oh, I get squirrel mob if I type in squirrel in Odyssey.
Oh God, what is that one? Get that out of here.
Gonna give you nightmares.
Yeah, seriously. No, actually, that one's not even that bad. Ryan has a misprint of the Odyssey one. Yo, that's sick, man. I thought I was flexing because I have like 3 of them, but the misprint one is sick.
Try to think what were there other squirrels? I guess Squirrel's Nest.
Yeah, Squirrel's Nest. Squirrel. You got Squirrel Wrangler, right? Is that the one?
But I was thinking from Odyssey Block, but yeah, that because that one's from Prophecy, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I don't
Oh, it
remember.
doesn't have. Oh wait. I mean, Mike, there's a bunch of random unplayables, right? So, uh, oh, Fran got one. Nut Collector. That's
I
amazing.
had that one up. I had that one up. Nut Collector, yeah.
Dude, Nut Collector should be playable. Um, oh, one card I wish. While they're just going back and forth, one card real quick, just on a random tangent. I wish Elvish Piper was playable. That could like if there was like a sick sneak attack deck. Um,
That was a card I remember when I was little kid
oh
Magic. You're just like, whoa,
yes.
this card's insane. It's like whoa.
Verdant Force into play? Come
Yeah,
on.
yeah. I also had what's it called from Urza's Legacy? It's 4 mana. You tap it and pay 4 to put a creature into play. There's like, oh, what's the name of the card? I don't know. I can't remember the name of the card, but
I was trying to vindicate the Black Vise. Not happening. I mean the Stasis.
Quicksilver Amulet. Maybe that's what it
Oh,
is.
Fran's got it. Fran knows, man. He's got all the.
I'll say I'm usually pretty good with the card names, but yeah, that was it. Yep.
Yeah, you can't stop Fran. You can't stop Fran. All right, Fran. What's the Odyssey card that can? It's green, and I think it can put a creature from the top of your library into play. I think that's what it does.
I don't know if it's from Odyssey.
I think yeah, it's a 4 mana 1/1. I thought it did something like that.
Oh,
I'm not because I'm not Phil. Though.
Zoologist.
That's it. That's it.
Okay.
Zoologist needs to see play. Card's broken.
Crows and Beast was one of my. It was incidentally a squirrel, but it was like a threshold card. But yeah, I remember that guy when I was little. We haven't talked much about this game, but yeah, we're draw going with the Stasis in play.
Yeah, yeah. Now, when you draw go with Stasis, you can talk about
Squirrels.
Yeah, squirrels. Yeah. Wait, Zoologist did do that though, right? Top of the library.
I think it just goes in your hand if it's a creature.
Oh, never mind. That card sucks.
Yeah, if it put it into play, that would be. Oh no, it puts it into play.
Oh man,
if it's a creature.
So yeah, so you're just gonna play blue green with Portent. A nice turn 5. I don't know what you're really doing though.
Sylvan Library, yeah, that's probably a little bit easier.
Still seems very underwhelming.
I will say it feels pretty natural to go Sylvan Library into Zoologist into like Big Fatty. Like in terms of like pipe dreams, that seems obtainable. I don't even know what the payoff is, but
yeah, I don't think there is one.
All right, back to this game. So without
No, I don't think he can. How's Brandon going to come back now?
Well, there's no Black Vise in play right now. If he gets enough mana, he could just like find a spot where he Cabal or like Duress and Naturalize.
Maybe, but it just seems unlikely. Like this is the like. Oh yeah, this is
the spot where like Chain of Vapor is super painful.
Yeah, now it's probably over.
Yeah, yes, that is an element. Like here, like you're getting so far ahead with the Chain of Vapor. Because now he doesn't need to commit cards to untap the Stasis. He can paper Stasis with the untapped mana. Yeah, now I think that was certainly a. Yeah, that's rough. Black Vise comes down. Brandon's already taking 2 a turn. He's got 1 land, so he'll stay at 2 damage a turn. But he pretty much needs land, and like a combination of naturalize. The best one I think would be Cabal Therapy because he has tokens to sack.
Oh, Gabe is proving us wrong. Meditate here.
Meditate.
I thought it was like the worst card in this deck. I still think it's the worst card in this deck, but Gabe's a man of taste. You know, great taste. He's a Bills fan.
I was gonna allude to the one Gush that he has in his deck that's altered. Great taste. Yeah. But yeah, Meditate is a sweet one.
No, that's sick. I mean, 1 is fine. It just you could honestly play any in Stasis. It could be anything. Honestly.
Yeah, because you could always pitch it to the Forsaken City, right? Or yeah, that too.
And both. Yeah, it's just whatever, you know.
Did anyone play Red Green Land Destruction with Argothian Worm and Shivan Worm? I remember Argothian Worm, but I didn't put Shivan Worm in my decks. I don't think I ever put that to paper though, but I definitely thought about it.
Shivan Worm was the one that like saw a lot of play during fires, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
It bounces. His gating or whatever.
That card is sick. Too bad it sucks.
I think Aaron played a couple copies of this in the PSS2.
Argothian Worm, right?
No, Shivan Worm, because he played a Fires deck.
Oh, okay. Also, Unfortunate Fires is unplayable. But
Shivan Worm bounces Avalanche Riders. So you Avalanche Riders pay for Echo, and then you cast the Shivan Worm. All right.
It's pretty good.
Yeah.
How much mana is invested in that? What's that? 13?
13,
mana?
yeah.
It's not bad. It's not bad. I don't know how many cards Gabe has in his hand, but it looks like it's at least a pile of like 4.
I'm pretty sure it's over. Yeah.
That's why when we were talking a couple turns ago, I just don't think like it just at that point, it's almost like you need everything to go right for you in Brandon's spot and everything to go like it's like inevitable that Gabe's gonna have a counter like it's just you know.
Well, and that kind of just reinforces the idea of, especially when you have cards that are instant speed, like Naturalize, there's not that much incentive to cast until the last moment. Like if Gabe is casting Chain of Vapor on a Stasis, like that's the time I think you want to do it. Like, yeah, it's unfortunate that he would get to untap, but like, I mean, if he's already committing a card, it's probably because he needs the Stasis back in his hand. Or you do it at the end of their turn, and if it gets bounced, then you get untap at least. But
okay. Yep. Chain of Vapor in response to Vindicate. That's it. It's over.
Yep. And so Gabe takes it down 3 games to 1. The Stasis deck. He had the moon power. It was all your fault.
Gabe's got his head in his hands. Gabe, you won.
He's stressed out, I guess.
Yeah.
I will say, I would like for him, especially that third game when like it just looked pretty bad for him. For him turning that around was pretty good. So let's jump down and chat with the players. I'll unmute them, and hopefully they do the same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't think about that, but I think you're right. That is, I mean, it is like razor thin, right?
That's one of those games where it's like, oh man, hugely demoralizing.
You know, they say
Right
the Rock
there.
is 50-50, but I feel like Stasis is too. Right?
Yeah, bummer. Should we unmute
Oh yeah,
these yawning fucks?
I think I just did.
Okay. Wake up, rise and shine.
All right.
Commentary stopped an hour ago.
Yeah.
I said to Brandon, like, I am making stupid mistakes because I am tired. His excuse is he has small kids, but I don't anymore, so I'm just tired.
Is there one? The only blaring mistake, I guess, was like the days when he had extra mana.
Yeah,
like
exactly. I was
Okay.
I don't know if you guys do this over webcam, but I catch myself staring at my own board too much and not at like the opponent's board, right?
Of
And I'm like
course,
staring
yeah.
at my own board state. Does that happen to you guys?
I do
Of
look at.
course.
I do. Like, I would say, yeah, playing over webcam is definitely a different feel than playing in paper for me.
Yeah,
but-
for sure.
We did have a question. So it
You have
was
a mirror next to your desk too, so you can stare at your face.
game number 3 when there was Deed, 2 birds, Wall of Roots, and an elephant token, and then there was Stasis and a Black Vise. And I think Gabe. So the Chain of Vapor was cast, right?
Yeah, I think you misplayed there, Brandon.
What was it?
What I do?
What was the Chain of Vapor targeting?
Mine? It was
Yeah.
the Stasis. I was forcing him to use it.
Okay, but
Oh, so it wasn't.
so your board wasn't it just like island, Forsaken City?
Yeah, but
So like
I had drawn the Stasis off the Gush, right?
no, Stasis was already in play. I'm just saying, like, if you Chain of Vapor a Stasis and then untap and play Stasis, like, how does that progress your like what you wanted to do?
No, I think I was trying to get him to activate the deed because I think I had drawn.
But
the
let's
other
say
Stasis.
he doesn't activate the deed.
Yeah, then I'm screwed.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
You had another Stasis in hand, though.
Then I hope to. Yeah,
But
still, you
but
get
we
him to
what we were trying to say is, like, even if the Stasis gets bounced, he doesn't like really take advantage of the situation because his Forsaken Cities don't untap. So he untaps 2 islands and then he can pay 2 to tap out and play Stasis, and then you're like, then he's got to like exile all the cards in his hand just to upkeep the Stasis, pretty much.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you think wait a turn to deed him? Is that what you're saying?
I would just make him pay mana. I would just say, like, you could just keep exiling every card you draw, and eventually I'm going to draw lands and then build up a hand with a counter or with a Duress and a Naturalize. But like if I mean it's a different story if he has 5 cards in hand and do that. But like when he had, I think he had 2, maybe it was 1. But,
Maybe I think I was banking on him being tired too.
But yeah, that was interesting because I would say, like, a lot of the times I try and play really patiently against Stasis when it's in play, as long as there's not a Black Vise.
Am I the only one not in my fucking basement?
Well, my basement's flooded, so I had to go upstairs.
Oh, right.
It's like molding. I'm pretty sure. I think all the carpet's gonna get ripped up tomorrow, so can't be down there.
So sorry.
It's okay. I'll bring up Spore Frog. That's my new mascot.
We had something similar in our kitchen. I don't know if I think I mentioned this to you like years ago, and my kid's friend was over, and he said, "Your kitchen smells like a hot barn of poopy garbage because of the mold and everything." So I feel you, man.
It doesn't seem like the child has a strong working vocabulary.
Yeah. I like full transparency. Just tell them how it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that.
Um,
I caught myself staring at my own board with that Daze, and I'm really upset with myself.
Well, wait. You both played really good. I mean, I was saying, like, it's late, right? I'm sure you guys both worked. I mean, like, you know.
I hope it was at least entertaining.
To be honest, it was Stasis, right? But I mean,
yeah, no.
I like Stasis, but can we talk about how sideboarding happened? Because we weren't sure exactly how many cards were coming in, and like Brandon, like, because obviously Natural Order is very risky against a bunch of counterspells, but like Verdant Force is kind of cute against Stasis if it stays in play. So
Yeah.
And I did not.
No, I got. What did I draw? Like 3 bounce spells in a row or something, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, you drew like a fiend. You wanted this more than me.
Yeah, I guess that's Is that how it works? No, you know what? We played each other in the batches. You were my 5th match, Brandon. I got my little notebook here, and I brought in Web.
Crushed you.
Yeah, right. It was 2-1. I brought in Annul, Powder Keg, Propaganda, and Web for that, and here I just brought in Annul, Propaganda, and then 1 Crypt and 1 Powder Keg.
So what cards are you able to take out? Because we were just like,
I shaved a Thwart. I shaved a Daze.
Okay, so it's just shaving cards.
Yeah, That's all. If you guys have better sideboard advice, I genuinely am all ears because I never know. Like, I don't have like dead cards. Like, it's a tight list. It's like a combo deck almost.
Well,
where,
like we talked about like Stifle. We talked about like Stifle, like because it's open deck list. He knows about them. That maybe there's more value of just bringing other cards because he kind of has to play around it, or doesn't. I don't know.
That's what I thought you were playing around, Brandon, for a little while there when I had like one card in hand. But that's a good point about knowing that it's there. But I still think it's such a great utility card against him with Deed, with stifling a manland activation, with stifling a fetch land. I think at one point I made a list of like all the things I thought I could stifle. So, I mean, even if he knows it's coming, still just like, you have to act on the threat of it, right?
In other matchups, do you get a lot of value out of Stifle? It's to me, it seems a little bit narrow.
I think I actually very much like it. I'll be honest. Just because it's like it's kind of like a counter spell in a way, in that it counteracts what they're trying to do, so I can catch them tapped out and like drop a stasis next turn. Like I said, I think fetch lands, wastelands, Dust Bowl activations, man lands, like other non-land things. I really like it. That, and I know, if I'm not mistaken, Mike, you played the other card I really like is Meditate as a one-off, and if I'm not mistaken, you played Meditate in the Stasis deck years ago too.
Right? I don't remember. I would play Howling Mind.
That works too.
So.
But yeah,
I had it in the Chronotog version.
Yeah, that's a sweet one too. That's one I've messed around with, but you need Kismet.
Or the Root Maze.
I don't like the Root Maze version of Stasis, I will tell you. Just because you're so reliant on just Forsaken City.
Okay.
To keep things going. The Chain of Vapor, right? Like it feels like a different deck almost. Right? Like you need the Elvish Spirit Guide and the Forsaken City to be active. To me. I don't know. I was telling Brandon, I started playing Magic Thanksgiving 1994, and I feel like anytime I've actually been playing Magic, I've had one kind of Stasis deck or another built and ready to go. I don't know if that makes me a sadist or what, but
it does.
Yeah.
No, I'll tell you exactly what it is. Actually, I don't know if I've said this before. Like, to me, the thing, like teenage me, the thing that got me hooked on Magic, or one of the things, was like this idea that there's cards that you can play in the middle of the game that like change the rules of the game then and there, and both players have to respond to it, right? And like Stasis was the first of those cards that I ever came across. There's Winter Orb, there's Howling Mind, there's Smokestack. There's like so many cards like that. There's like, okay, the game you thought you were playing is now different. The rules are different. And I just love that that aspect of it, right? That you're forcing the other player to react on your turns.
Fair enough.
Yeah, that totally makes sense.
Yeah.
God damn, I don't know. It's not the most fun to play. I'll be honest.
It's like a warm blanket at this point for me.
I was telling everyone in the pregame that
it looks like that's what Tom wants right now.
Yeah.
He's ready.
Okay, so Tom, what's the thing behind you that's blue with a circle in it? I was trying to figure it out.
Is it a squatty potty?
No, the kid's toy. It's like a teal blue
next to the orange thing.
Oh, it's a toy washing machine.
Oh, that's cute.
A toy what?
Washing machine.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I mean, look at this great. It's supposed to be like my man cave.
Yeah. No, I hear you.
What the hell happened?
That's what my basement looked like too. So
there's shit everywhere.
Yeah. So.
Then I clean it up, and they do the same nonsense tomorrow.
Yeah.
That's
Oh, you guys, yeah. Oh, but that's a Bill's clock.
Okay. That's awesome. Yeah.
Still some stuff is mine. Yeah. I will say that the game was not as like Brandon. I know playing against Stasis is rough, but the turn, like I enjoyed it. Like, it wasn't bad at all. And there was a lot of there was more interactive.
Could have been worse.
We had one time where we were just talking about random cards. We weren't even watching the game. So
what were the cards on the bingo card that showed up on the list?
Oh man, let's see, Nut Collector, Squirrel Wrangler.
Nice.
They're all the squirrel stuff. Yeah.
Squirrel Tribal.
Yeah, we were giving Brandon props for his token game.
That's awesome.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're talking about some not like zoologists, cards that are not playable. Stuff like that. Only for a short amount of time.
You might have to check the replay or look it up.
If you join the Spice League on the Discord, you can play whatever you want.
Yeah.
That's why we were waiting for Phil to show up so you can start, because we were trying to think like, oh, what's that card that does this? And Fran was like, yeah, Phil needs to be here.
Wait, Zoologist is the one. It's like the Wood Sage effect, right? Where you flip it, and if it's a creature,
goes into play. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, it goes right into play.
Yeah, if it's a creature. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I named that one thinking like, oh, that card's busted. Like, obviously being sarcastic, but there's no real good. Well, it's like the setup and what do you actually do? Like, what are you putting into play? Like, we don't have Grizzlebrand or Trax.
Right. Yeah. Like, it's like a it's like a BS natural order. Basically.
Yeah.
Worldly Tutor, that creature on there, and that's five mana, nine mana committed natural order.
There you go. But you get to keep your dude. You get to keep you could do it all again the next turn.
If your opponent's meddling mage has named Erratic Explosion, you can still stick the Draco on top and then put it into play.
Yeah.
What's that card? Weird Harvest. Does that put cards into your hand or?
It's green X. It's both players get to tutor for creatures.
I'm playing it in the Spice Paradise League with my Trolls list.
All right.
Excellent. But they don't have Zoologist in their deck, so they can't exploit it.
Well,
you do put it into your hand.
Yeah, it goes in a hand. Yeah.
Yeah,
I wish it was worse, frankly.
All right, back to the Brewing Lab. Well, the Premodern group's got to break Zoologist. That's our next challenge. All right.
Feels like something with Intruder Alarm, right? Because then if you have like a bunch of like Monodorks, and then you can stack the top of your deck. Well, the Recruiter's banned, but then you keep on tapping and tapping. You know what I mean?
Okay.
By the time you're doing all that, your opponent's won already, and they're giving their match slip in. Right.
Yeah.
or if you're an MTGO, you've timed out. Yeah.
Look what I did.
Yeah.
I guess there's probably easier ways to win with Intruder Alarm. Like Squirrel's Nest is probably.
Is Intruder Alarm the most combo?
Oh, I guess you would need to animate it then.
In Premodern.
I don't know. There's a million things. We could go a long ways. I don't know. All right. Well, let's wrap things up. Is there anything else, players, that you guys want to say?
I just want to say, Brandon, I think this is the 4th or 5th time I've played you. And every single time, like, I'm actually scared to lift my arms up because I'm so sweaty. And it's always a pleasure.
Yeah, likewise. Wish it would have been the finals, but here we are.
And the other two decks, Mike, are Goblins and Burn. Right?
Burn, yep. And so we will be playing that match on Friday.
I'm screwed either way, I think.
We'll see. Stasis is much more formidable sometimes, so
yeah, I eschewed or I forwent all the anti-red cards for other cards, thinking everyone was going to be playing that stupid green land destruction deck, and I put these instead, and I didn't run into it once. So.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, players, we'll let you go.
Luck.
Yep.
Thank you, sir.
Congratulations, Brandon, on getting this far. But yeah.
Yeah, seriously.
Then, Gabe, we will see you in our finals match after we finish our other semifinals and figure out when we're going to do that. But yeah, hopefully it doesn't take as long as it did between the quarters and the semis. A lot of that was because of me. But yeah, so we'll try and wrap up our spring fling soon. So.
Alrighty, but make sure the game's at 9:00 at night again. That's the best time to play against Stasis.
All right.
Yeah. Or with it.
All right, guys. Thanks so much. Have a good night.
All right, Tom. Let's wrap things up. So thank you, Tom, for jumping in and doing commentary on the deck that you love by so much. So
I had such a blast. I left my family to watch this and commentate on this, and no, I mean, you never have to thank me, man. Just being part of the community, and it's fun, even just poking fun with Stasis. But I enjoyed the match. I liked hanging out with you and talking with our friends in chat. And Mike, just honestly, I just want to give you props for running this and the dedication you put in. I mean, look how long it's been going on, right? I mean, I know life gets in the way, but just props to you, man. Like,
sure.
You deserve so much credit. So just shout out to you, man.
I'll thank the viewers again. Thanks everyone for tuning in. It's always nice when people are able to make the live viewings and chat with us. Appreciate that. And just want to thank everyone for all the support. But yeah, we'll wrap things up. So until next time, take care.